It says, yeah, meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
We can record this too. Let me know if it goes live.
It says it's now streaming live. It says, yeah, meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
We finally got this right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
No way. We're getting better. Let's see here. All right. Let's make sure we're recording. Just waiting for our friend. Getting geared up for this 420. Oh, here we go. All right, let's see. I got a little intro for you today. See if I could get all fancy. And we'll do our little intro. One of my favorite things to do is music. Right? I love smoking and getting creative.
Me too.
I got a fancy one if Brett joins us. I've been puffing hard on this blueberry OZK.
Yeah, I definitely smoked a lot of the one that I have.
Right?
It's definitely real good.
I feel like it's going through the cart. Pretty nice though. I've been hitting.
Yeah, functionality wise, I think it's been very, very nice. I feel like it flows really smooth. I feel like it tastes really good. The effects are solid. Everything about it's pretty good. I'm definitely enjoying my experience with it anyway.
Yes, sir.
I try to keep it mixed up though. I try to smoke a little bit of everything all the time.
For that. I got another little video I made.
I'm smoking some of Wonderbrett's straight OZK flower, and it's pretty bomb.
Pretty bomb, right?
Pretty good. Pretty good flower, not gonna lie.
What do you think our friend is? He may or may not join us. He's a busy guy, but the show's still gonna go on. And I do have a little fancy video thing I've been working on for him just to have fun. I just got like that blueberry. I get really ripped on it, and somehow I get like really creative. And not that I need more things to do, but I thoroughly do. Like I used to VJ back in the day. I don't know if I ever told you that.
You have. We've talked about this briefly.
Yeah.
Like to do.
Used to have a music studio and do all kinds of videos. I was always into film, music, video stuff. Yes, sir. So this thing getting old with you yet?
I mean, for me, yeah, it's a little old. I definitely like to go out to eat and do stuff like that. I was really having a lot of fun having just moved to LA. I was going to the Comedy Store a ton. And the coronavirus put a big kibosh on that. But
that's the one thing. No more concerts, movies for a while.
No movies, no concerts, no comedy shows, none of that stuff. Even like the homies were coming to visit all the time. I moved down here and my buddies from the Bay were like, oh yeah, we're just going to come down and crash in your guest room for the weekend. And just none of that either. It's been an adjustment, but I will also say that I've been trying to look on the brighter side of it. We've been cooking a lot of really good food here at the house. We've been making some really delicious stuff. We've been using our time to exercise. I'm totally out of shape, and I've been getting up every morning and go for a walk, and I live in the hills, so it's a nice walk. It gets my heart rate up every morning, and that's been really good. I've been doing that. My wife's been doing these exercise video challenges through YouTube, and she's just crushing it. So we're trying to make the best of the situation. Oh, look who it is.
Hey, he's in his office.
His private office.
Look at this. So I just want you to know I made a video, a music video, like an MTV music video for you that I've been waiting to show you. It's not like fully completed, but entirely created on Blueberry OZK.
Fuck yeah.
So I don't have the music quite all the way, but I'll give you a little share. I've been waiting for a little intro for you.
Super dope.
Check this out. Quick. It moves quick.
Okay.
Moves very quick. I used to be a VJ back in the day. Took a while. All LA traffic, beach. Oil animation. Right?
Yeah. That's great, man. That looks really good. I like that.
Yeah.
It's even got the West Coast like Dr. Dre type beat on it too.
Yep. Well, like I said, since the whole Corona, gotten a lot more indoor activity. So the way I keep myself busy is, besides everything else going on, you got to have some creative outlet, right?
Definitely.
You got to have some creative release, and that is my creative release. It was actually pretty fun. I was telling the guys, I was like, hey, I got this like Super Cali Vibe mix video I'm making, and yes, sir.
Yeah, that was dope, man. How long did it take you to put that together?
People don't want to know.
Too long.
Since we've been talking. But yeah, so I wanted to have you back on. We did our first fireside chat, and it was a long episode. And so I wanted to kind of do the introduction show. We had a lot of hot topics at the time with, a lot of people were confused who's fully melted, and long story short, anytime you see fully melted, that's kind of been our division with live rosin. So it's all anything that's from fresh frozen has a little tag fully melted. It's our collab with Flynn, who was Wook Sauce, who's now fully melted. And then AVD. A lot of people were asking about carts, coronavirus, what protocols are in place, and two brands that are standing behind this new release on the cart. We're both kind of super meticulous in what we put our name behind and why. And so I always felt like people didn't know who AVD was, so we wanted to spotlight them. And ultimately come back to you. And moving forward, our fireside chats are going to be just one guest, so we can focus on the conversation on pretty much what we want to talk about in the projects and things. So I'm going to jump into it. The last time, just to kind of recap everyone, this is Brett from Wonderbrett. He's one of the partners at Wonderbrett. If you're not familiar with them, you can visit them online at, it's wonderbrett.com.
It is
super easy.
We finally got the domain name. We were Wonderbrett USA forever, and then we finally got the domain name. Somebody was like bought it up early on me and then was holding it out for a good chunk of money, but they finally came to reality and we finally bought it.
That interesting. I like the website. A lot of people also don't understand. It's on our Instagram. On our Instagram, we changed, and our website, and your website has it too, and I wanted to bring that up, is that it's 21 and up. It's not like we're trying to prevent making people push another thing. It's just like if you were in a bar or anywhere else, there's content that's just designed for adults. And when you go to our websites or you go to Instagram, there is an age restriction that is put there. And we switched that probably like 2 months ago. So I was just, out there. We had gained went to 30,000 or 40,000 followers, and we got kicked off. And I was like, man, I wonder what guidelines I broke. And so we were going through it again. And I was like, wow, this is the number one rule that we broke. So we had to start over. And halfway through that, we switched that to 21 and up. And I can't tell you how many people hit us up on the daily. Dude, did you block me? Why'd you block me? Why'd your people block me? And I'm just like, I don't know. Just go back to it and just hit yes. But apparently, what has to happen is you got to type in the Blue River Terps or at Wonderbrett, right?
Gotcha.
You have to type it back in, and when you do it one more time, it'll just ask you, are you older than 21, and just hit enter.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, they kick people off if they were following you and they didn't do that after like 60 days, they're like kicked off.
Oh shit. Instagram and Facebook, you're constantly changing it up, I don't know if everybody knows, but yeah, Instagram is, it's owned by Facebook. So,
yep.
These big tech companies right now, they're in control, they more than ever, like look at where, all these platforms we're on. So, they definitely are calling the shots.
Yep. So I am going to kind of briefly go over some of these strains. If you want to talk about the mix that you made, because you actually made the mix for this blueberry OZK. It's we put up a little post. People were confused. They thought a blend meant we blended it with distillate because the numbers are so high. We are going to get into that, which is a fair question, honestly. Because when you hit like 82% active or 78% active, you start to think to yourself, well, that's a lot of Delta 9. And how did that happen, but also retain the terpenes? And I have no problems actually explaining the process today, because those fellow solventless makers out there will appreciate the extra steps. It's not just some jar tech meltdown. We can give you a good rundown on it. But you made a blend, and this came from indoor whole plant buds, and we used this blueberry, Beyond Blueberry, correct?
Yep, we used that strain in a new strain that's not out right now. It's coming. It's the Strawberry OZK. So those two strains went together. So that strain right there, Strawberry, crossed with our other OZK strain. That's the Dr. Green Thumb collaboration, the top.
Up here.
Yeah, those two strains together is the Strawberry to OZK. That's a new genetic coming. And we took that brand new genetic and we put that blueberry together because of the, that really unique, full, like rounded berry flavor. It's just like you have the strawberry berry side of things and the strawberry berry side of things. And it kind of just makes a very full, blueberry OZK, type flavor. So you're getting the blueberry, you're getting the strawberry, and you're getting the OZK all together in one cart, which is, I love the blending of strains together. It's something that we're going to be putting out in a pre-roll coming very soon. And we're going to be doing all types of unique blends with pre-rolls. So it just only makes sense to do it in the carts as well. And we've done it in the past too. This is just the first time I've had somebody really good to work with that can execute it and get it out to the market the way we want to.
Appreciate that. Definitely.
I love that too, Brett, that you're like about that blending of strains. Because for me, it's a really nostalgic thing. Like it always used to be that I had a gram of weed and my boy had a gram of weed, and there are two different kinds of grams of weed. And rather than roll two joints up, we would roll one and go halves on it. And sometimes, like, you'd roll two weeds together and you're like, this is kind of whatever, but we're getting stoned, so who cares? But when you get that one that was special, you were like, dang, dude, this is so awesome. And I loved doing that when I was younger. So it's cool to get to do it again on like a whole new level with you guys.
Yeah, when all the strains are there with these unique terp profiles that are so distinct and recognizable over and over, that kind of becomes like that, elemental building block for something that you can build on and create multiple flavors from. But you have to have those building blocks first, which just coincidentally, our little cubes for our packaging are nice little like elemental blocks.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's talk about this because this is complicated. That's why I wanted to do a fireside chat, because for you guys, you've never put out a cart. It's always been about the flowers.
Yeah, it's always been about the flower. We've made some carts, and some stuff like that, but we never put them out. It's always been R&D, and we've found some really cool ways to do it with BHO tech, but we never even were trying to get into the solventless sides of things at all. Because a lot of the strains that we had developed, we just developed them for really good smoke and really good terpene profiles and nice highs, and we weren't sure if any of them would really yield well in a solventless process. So when we identified a few strains with you that could do it, it made it possible. And then you have the ability to break it all down and kind of explain it to people how that you can make a solventless cart that really has the right viscosity and the terpene profiles preserved from what the starting material was with the the flour that we gave you. So
yeah, I think that's key is and when we talk about solventless, for those that are listening, there's really two true, when I say true solventless and solvents, that means no water, no gases, no chemical solvents, no solvents used in the whole process. So there's only two methods that currently exist, and that is doing a dry sift static, or any kind of dry sifting with screens. That is removing the trichomes from the surface of the buds themselves, and flower rosin. And so we've got a little blog on our website to help people understand that. It's, if you go to our Learn tab and you go to blogs, you'll see like understanding rosin, and it will break down flower rosin and hash rosin and live rosin. So when you see live in front of it, that means fresh frozen. So this project is a true solventless, and I wanted to pick this picture of all of them because this explains it. And so what people don't understand, maybe they're starting to understand, and the trichome heads are these little nobulars at the very end, and that's what we're after. Flower rosin and CO2 and BHO is extracting, you're essentially pressing or dissolving all of the content of the flower into an oil. And so if you use BHO as an example and you take from flour, you have two options in those extraction worlds. You can go from a fresh frozen, or you can go from a freshly dried or freshly cured approach. The old school ways of dry sifting was, there's nothing wrong with it either, because I've got friends that are out there doing this, but essentially people would dry their plants for 2 to 3 months. They dry and then they cure for a very long time and try to get these heads very brittle so that they can remove them on screens by bouncing them very gently. And so what's happened is, with fresh frozen and ice water, grabbing it while it's still alive and then freezing the head, and using water and very cold water to separate the head, breaks from the stalk when you get it to a certain temperature. If you go past that temperature, it shatters everything. And so essentially you are trying to catch a fresh grape right off the vine and carry it like right through the water, and not touch it. And then most people are using a freeze dryer, but people can do cold cure dry. Now the freeze dryer tech came along because when you remove this resin head from fresh frozen plant material, it's essentially a live resin gland. And so when you remove that and you cold room cure it, meaning you grab it and you spread the heads out. Once you've removed them from the plant, you're spreading these out, and you're getting it on parchment, and you're putting it in a cold room, and you would cure that. You could do like a cure of the resin. That's how we used to do that, believe it or not. I know Pat's smiling. And so that's actually like how it was done. And I built walk-ins, frostless walk-in freezers, so you can get this really beautiful cold cure. And in that process, you would get really beautiful hash. You would get what I call full maturity. If someone's grown their resin properly like this, and we'll talk about maturity versus early maturity, that means you're trying to harvest this plant when the trichomes on a general, if you look at all of them, they all have variance in them in color. You're trying to grab them in the optimal THC range and optimal terpene. There is such a thing as early and too ripe or overripe. So you can go early, you can go right on or over. I always like, it depends on if you're smoking it and if you're extracting it. There was a big fascination about trying to get clear concentrates and as white as possible extracts. And that was the market, and that's the trend that was really moving. I never really followed that particular trend. I always tried to follow the resin and keep innovating around what I felt was the perfect medium between the two. But that's what kind of pushed all of this movement. And so people said, well, if we don't cold cure our resin anymore, before we make our hash, we realized that we could use a freeze dryer. So we can go from a live plant, frozen, into water, remove the resin, get it into a freeze dryer, use the water around the plant itself at negative pressure, negative temperatures and under vacuum. The water expands and it actually separates the heads in this like very sub type of sublimation happening at subcritical temperatures. And so under vacuum, the water that's around all these heads is actually used to kind of like expand and push around, and then it slowly dried off. And doing that, you had a lot less oxygen and air exposure to those heads. And so that created a quote unquote wider type of hash and wider type of rosin. And then people with indoor, and people with indoor would start to pull it. You know, if this variety was 8 weeks, people were like, you know what, if I pull my plant at 7 weeks, 6.5, some even 5, which is crazy, but they do it. So between 5 and 8, people will pull it because they're after that clear rosin.
That's too early. 35 days is like, that's so early.
So this is all because people are not really understanding the flavonoids. And so flavonoids are what's making the color inside those little heads. And they have reactions with different things like compounds and terpenes and generally oxygen. So it leaves its mark. So flavonoids are essentially, they make up all of the color variation in the cannabis plant and within the resin that we're looking at. So if you extract this with BHO, or you did some kind of extraction from dried plant material, let's say BHO extracted dry trim or dry bud, you would tend to see a dark crude oil because the flavonoids, the plant has dried, it has evaporated 80% of the water. The monoterpenes that were once present in the resin glands, they're considered a group of hydrocarbons. I know people don't like to hear that, but they are, and they're very volatile. And if a plant has 3% terpenes, by the time it's dried and cured, it may have 1.5 down to 1% or even less. They could evaporate. Up to 80% of those monoterpenes can evaporate. So people started using fresh frozen, going after monoterpenes, using the monoterpenes in high concentrations, the higher terpenes, the higher monoterpenes, at least in the BHO world, that could help accelerate the precipitation of THC or the crashing out of THCA when the terpenes are evaporating. And the same thing happens with live rosin that's taken with high amounts of monoterpenes, jar-teched, and then left. It could also make solventless diamonds. So there are some serious key benefits to why you would do that. And I'm a supporter of both. So I just wanted everyone to understand where color is really coming from and what's going on. And so we're going to start to kind of frame this moving forward as we educate our platform and consumers about early maturity and full maturity. And so we needed to let people know when we talk about solventless, this is when we say true solventless, this means this was from a dry sift, heads only separation. We've harvested that off. We've made a full spectrum rosin, and that's our starting base, if you will, before we really even get started. And so there's two outputs, and the early maturity or fresh frozen approach is going to produce a lot lighter colored oil. Could be yellowish, have little hints of green sometimes if you go early, but it'll be a little bit lighter in color. It'll have a really fresh plant taste. It's something that should be consumed very quickly. You should not be sitting on live rosin for months on end. You know, unless you've got it perfectly tight in a jar and you're have it in a refrigerator. But generally it's perishable. It's gonna move quickly. And if it's monoterpenes, and especially if it's in a cartridge, it can cause complications. It could even cause little diamonds to crash out inside the cartridge or not function properly. Monoterpenes want to evaporate very quickly, causing a lot of pressure, a lot of defects. So I had made lots of pods, you know, hundreds of thousands of cartridges by now, and pods. And I've been doing rosin sauce with Pat for 3 years now. And we have been honing in and fine tuning how we make this and why we make it. And so that's kind of why I wanted to go over this process with you, and just so everyone kind of knows. And so what we did was we took indoor freshly dried buds that were grown to maturity like this, and the results are a very, very, very high amount of THC and a very high amount of terpenes. It's going to be a darker oil because it's natural and it's fully active and full spectrum. It hit like 83%, I think 78% fully active THC and 9.6 terps. And what we're going to talk about is a couple interesting things. So real quickly, if you're just maybe tuning in, what he's talking about, so this is a indoor whole plant, dry sift, true solventless product. And instead of just a rosin sauce, we actually did a jelly sauce. We're going to talk about that. So not only is our process kind of complicated, the blend is complicated because they don't even offer a strawberry OZK. And what Brett did is he likes to blend things. And he took the Strawberry Bliss right here on their website. Looks like an uplifting sativa, does have some sweet strawberries, cotton candy, rose petals. You guys generally, bubblegum family, is this something that you found along the way or got seeds or clones?
Yeah, this was one of those like just gifts from heaven, you know, where we were growing OG for years. A friend of mine gave me a bubblegum cut, and it was fire. And I grew this bubblegum cut for like a year, but you know, OG just overtook everything. And I really wish I had that bubblegum cut back now because it was so good. And along the way, it would do like weird stuff, you know. It would like, you know, throw a seed, self-produced on a branch here or there, and we ended up getting a few seeds of it along the way. And when we end up going back to pop those seeds, I thought I was going to get that bubble gum, and it was this totally different, you know, mutation of this strawberry now, and it tastes like strawberry bubble gum, smells like crazy strawberry. And all I can guess is that within the bubblegum genetics is these lavender and kind of fruity tones that that aren't really stable and genetically drift, I guess, when they do weird things. And I never really could explain why that strain ended up being so strawberry, because it is one of the most strawberry strains that I've ever come across. When you grow it and the whole room is full of strawberry, it just, as soon as you open the door to the room, it smells like strawberry shortcake factory in there. And
I can attest to that. All the rooms in Brett's facility really smell crazy, but the strawberry one and the orange, are both like they're like something else, totally unlike any other grow room I've walked into in a really long time.
I
Yeah, and
appreciate that, Pat. Thank you.
you're a big flower guy. We talked about that before. A lot of people think Pat just smokes hash, but on the contrary, he
I smoke it all.
yeah.
I smoke hash. I smoke rosin. I've been smoking full melt the whole time we've been talking. Like
I saw that. I was gonna say as I was talking, I was like, "Oh, live rosin this, full melt this." He's like, "Right here, right here."
Uh-huh.
I got all of them. I got a whole lineup of stuff over here, and I'm smoking some of the OZK flower, Brett. It's super dank. I'm loving it.
Yeah. So
Awesome, man.
so you took the strawberry bliss, and I'll say from an extract side and a terpene side, those I would say have, if we look at alcohols or we look at things that may have lighter terpenes, I would imagine this one is high in monoterpenes and is just putting them off as it's growing. It's probably starts
Totally.
off extremely high in terpenes. It could be so high that it almost has to off gas them. It's just like too much inside. And so they are very light and they're hard to capture because we do a lot of strawberry banana ones. Like if we were going to weigh them, because we actually get down to the molecular weights of terpenes, and generally like a 10 mil would be like, it could be 60-70% in weight versus its liquid form. So it's interesting because we can look at traits like that. And the strawberry on its own is light and it wants to go, so you have to keep that in mind. And that's something that I think would help, if you were doing like anything with fresh rosin, would certainly help accelerate crashing that out. And so, all right, so that's a pretty cool story about strawberry. So you took that and then crossed it with OZK, which this is where it gets a little confusing for some people. We got Be Real's logo here.
Yeah, so Be Real, I gave him the OG Kush in about 97. Now, he already knew about the OG Kush and smoked it from other people, but it was like the first time that there was somebody like myself who was willing to give him the strain. And I was just a huge fan, like we all are, of Cypress Hill. I grew up listening to the music, them and Rage Against the Machine and a few other bands at that time where it was like on constant repeat. And
I was blasting
I don't
that
know if
the other day, just straight Cypress Hill, like all that fucking. I was just rocking it super hard.
Yeah, so I don't know how old all of you guys are, but I mean, in '96 I graduated high school, and that 95, 96 was like this pinnacle magical era for Cypress Hill, Rage Against the Machine. Who else too? Like Tool had a real pinnacle album right at that time too. And the thing was at that time was to like, your one buddy would always have like, I don't know who it was, but a friend of yours, I'm guessing, had a Ford Expedition or the Explorer and a big bass speaker in the back on the floor or in the back potentially.
Yeah.
And it would be all of you piled in there listening to that shit super loud, hotboxing it with 3-foot bongs and fat joints. And that was kind of, my high school experience with that, like, so then giving Be Real that OG Kush, he blew it up and rapped about it and made it a cultural phenomenon. The word Kush itself from there just went up for like 10 15 years, and even till now, like it's 20 something years later, and I got that cut from Josh D and his circle of friends. So when OZ Kush came out, and the Skittles and the OG is what makes that up, is that original OG cut and the Skittles. So when that came out and I found that pheno with my partner Cam, it only made sense to be like, let's give this strain to Be Real and do the collaboration, for real this time. Because we had always talked about it, and it just seemed like all the stars had lined up for the timing and the ability to actually be in the rec market, execute at scale, and go, yeah, you know what, we can actually produce, 60 or 80 pounds or 100 pounds of this on a monthly basis, and actually do this and make it worthwhile for Be Real to be a part of it. And it just seemed like that was the whole purpose, really. Like, so it's paying homage kind of to somebody like Be Real, for being such a advocate and frontline person for cannabis for so many years, like just pushing the envelope. So I have a lot of respect for Be Real.
Yeah, you and I are probably exactly the same age. I'm 42, and I also was out in '96, and I remember distinctively their smoke out tour or something.
Mm-hmm.
They had little Maya or something open them with the Roots or Black Eyed Peas or something.
Yeah.
Remember that? So they were on a tour that year, and I was growing then, and so I remember like thinking that these guys were crazy because they were only rapping about like weed and like smoking, like they put it out there. They really did help popularize it. I was fortunate enough to also meet him on set in Viceland with Bong Appetit. And this on the first season, then this third one, I didn't know what it was like. They don't really kind of tell you everything. They just kind of like tell you what's up. But there, he had tried the flan, and I met him a couple times actually. But that first time on set, he was like super genuine, super humble, like really awesome dude. Like he was really cool. I told him I've been following him since like the '90s. He knew exactly what tour, and like I told him where I went. He like knew he was like it was yesterday for him. But he was just
people underestimate him. He's super sharp and super generous, and a real like. But you go around with him and you walk around and you hang out the day with him. People stop him left and right for autographs and pictures, and he never says no. I mean, most people would not have that patience to do it, but I'm telling you, dude, I've watched him do it for 10, 15 years, and he just never says no. He's always, super cordial and thankful to have fans. And, everybody thinks he might be some big tough guy, which I'm sure he can be that too, but he's definitely a very amazing person too, in the way that he carries his activism and his integrity. I really got nothing. No, I don't think there's anything bad you could say about the guy. It's just
no, I agree. So I thought that was really cool. Super stoked to be part of that. And then you took cross those two together.
Yep.
And then we blended this into the mix, the Beyond Blueberry.
Yeah.
And this one, Hunted Lineage from the Sunday Driver seed pack. Okay.
That's crazy. This is Sunday Driver Pheno?
Yeah, exactly. So
I knew it was a crazy one. I told you.
About 4 years ago, I guess, Canorado it was about 3 years ago. Maybe time flies by so fast, I can't even keep track anymore, but
2020 right now.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, what?
3 years ago seems more accurate if it's a Sunday Driver Pheno.
Yeah, it was about 3 years ago, right when Canorado kind of blew up on the scene, and before he really got in deep with the Jungle Boys and all the genetics that he did with them. He just all they did was release the Sunday Driver and about 8 other strains at the TLC Jungle Boys store. And I remember the day they released it. I was there the day they released it, standing in line, waiting for it. And I got those seeds, and I popped those seeds, and the Jungle Boys, they popped their seeds too, and they put out all these different Sunday Driver 15 and 18, or I don't know, a bunch of different phenos, right? Like numbered phenos. And
they even still do that. They pheno hunt everything and just put them onto the shelf for you to buy. I thought it was very odd.
It's a good and an interest. It's not what I would do, but it's a good idea. It's interesting for the people that never get to experience what it's like to taste all the phenos from a breeding batch. Then the people that go, oh, I could see why, what, number 18 is everybody's favorite, and that should be known as the strain as Sunday Driver. So when Sunday Driver came out, like let's just talk about this for a second. Like, let's just talk about Canorado for a second and some seeds for 1 minute here. It's an interesting thing because I'm not a big fan of fem seeds to begin with, and those were put out as fems. And I didn't really find that out till after I bought the seeds because it was like so like nondescriptive when they were advertising them. And so when you think of fem seeds, you think that there would be already like a kind of a picked pheno, and you would go, it's just going to be a very, the reason people make fems is because they were trying to make something that's very uniform across the board, and that it is what it is every time because you're getting that.
They feel like they've got a winner and they want it to just stick. Like that's
exactly. So, when Canorado put out those seeds, and still, this is kind of one thing I like Canorado because I like what I found, and I've found some other things too, that he's done well. But it's kind of confusing to me as someone who buys seeds or pheno hunts them or whatever it is that I do to find the genetics I look for through either our breeding process or this. I like to find a genetic, identify it as like, this is that genetic, and everybody kind of gets enough of that weed to know what that weed is and that it is that genetic, so that the next time that you might get, Pink Picasso, that you're like, yeah, this is definitely Pink Picasso. There's like not somebody sitting there trying to explain to you that this is Pink Picasso, but a totally different pheno, doesn't look like it, doesn't taste like it, but it's still the same genetic batch. It's very confusing to the consumer to try and find a consistent product that way. So I'm not in love with that. I like when people identify something and then you all know what you're looking for.
Especially for so many consumers who aren't super involved in cannabis and just want to go buy some dank weed to smoke and have a good time with. And when you try to explain to them like, oh, this is a different pheno, they're like, what are you talking about? And they don't understand that concept at all. They're like, there's multiple kinds of the same weed. And it's like, well, you have 3 kids, right? They're not all exactly the same.
Exactly. Just because, Jordan is Jordan doesn't mean that all his sons are going to be just like him. So it's just one of those things where I really appreciate when a breeder identifies a pheno and gets it out there to where everybody knows that that's the cut that everybody's looking for. And then we all can agree that that's the cut. And then you don't get such confusion. So going back to the Sunday Driver seed pack, I popped the whole pack. I think it was 12 seeds in the pack. And everything was kind of like these, like, grapefruit, citrusy, like a lot of like terps that I don't really appreciate or like, right? But again, only one of these seeds out of there ended up being this Beyond Blueberry. And even in veg, this Beyond Blueberry smelled very blueberry to me, remind me of the blueberry that I would get in like 94, 95 in high school, right before Kush kind of came on the scene and really blew everything out of the water genetics wise, which a lot of those genetics are so good. I'm sad that they got lost, but I'm really happy when I find something that is as good reminiscent wise as this blueberry is to what I used to smoke back then and look up to. So, and that's what's weird about a feminized pack, like, and all these different phenos that came out of feminized pack. It makes me think that Canorado has maybe like 4 or 5 different feminized pollens that he might be spreading onto one plant. And then when you get these feminized packs, it's like you're getting like this super wide range of phenos that could come from that one strain, which could end up resulting in something very special like this. But you have to be able to do that diligent work and meticulous, hunting to find that gem in that one pack, because I'll tell you that every other one of them, I was like, no, this is not a terp that I want or a flavor that I like. And
especially when you buy the fem pack and you're expecting 12 seeds to all be pretty much the same.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't even know it was a fem pack. I might not even have bought it if I knew it was a fem pack, because fems are more highly likely to potentially genetically drift and do hermaphroditing or create, seeds or something like that. So I've seen that happen with the past with other projects where breeders didn't do it properly, but it seems under this condition, Canaretto did a good job under this situation here. And the first thing that I'll be doing is breeding the OZK into that blueberry very shortly to capture that blueberry terp in another genetic, like Skittles, that it lends to it, because they're both on that sweet side. That I guess Tony describes that as a more monoterpene, but when it comes to those sweet, delicate terpenes like strawberry, blueberry, Skittles, those sweeter terpenes like that, they are more delicate, and you do have to be more on it when it comes to your date of harvest and how you're curing it and how you're treating everything. Certain strains are like, less fickle, but with the sweeter terpenes, you really do need to be more mindful of all those things.
How you handle it. You don't want to disrupt the resin heads. We went over that in our last Fireside, where we went in and we literally off the stick when it dries, and it was like right into bag and harvest and extracted right away. And
you showed us that process, shout out to you. Thank you for coming down and showing us how to, get it off the plant with as least damage as possible, because, we were going through it in a different process. We had a different mindset for flour. And when it goes to what you're doing for sift and resin, it takes a different process. So thank you for sharing that with us all too at our place, so that we could give you the best opportunity to make the best hash out of the process.
It really helped. I think that in the long run, it was ultimately super beneficial for us to come do that, because we got great resin, and I think that the cart came out really good. And I think it's super. Actually, this whole conversation
I like it.
Is awesome.
I was gonna say something that we learned. So in that monoterpene and with the other groups are like sesquiterpenes. And what's interesting is that terpenes, they will evaporate off and they kind of turn into different groups. So the sesquiterpenes can be really soft and sweet and really stable. And so I found we got different groups of terpenes from dry material and from fresh frozen material, and we kept trying to find this sweet spot. We did a flan that was like dry and live together, and we started like, how do I get to the sweet spot? And we realized that it was the harvest handling, and like you wanted to have you wanted it to be dry, like freshly dried, and within in the days matter, because if you're looking at the resin heads and you're trying to harvest it at the right time, and you say, okay, I want to make sure that I have these heads, and you're going to look under the microscope while it's growing. And if you're at 30%, like little amber and things, and mostly clear, by the time it's actually dried and cured, those heads will change to like 50% or more. And so if you harvest with 70% amber across there, again, it'll get a different color. And those are the flavonoids. And this is like what happens with hydrophilic or hydrophobic reactions with the terpenes. It's attracting moisture or repelling it. And so once the heads are cut off, like a lot can happen. And so we kind of briefed on this before about that. And so ultimately I found when you're dealing with delicate varieties like that, and you've got these different types of terpenes going on, you have a complex blend. So the only way to capture a complex blend in a stable one for a cartridge, in which we're trying to get true solventless project out with no water, is to do this in this freshly dried whole plant process.
And I think freshly dried is the key word there, because we made sure that it was just trimmable at that point where it was like, okay, this is just dry enough to trim, so let's do this now.
Yep.
Versus like waiting even another day or two.
Yep.
Yeah, the material was definitely at a very nice sweet spot for extraction, and it ran really smooth, and the resin was, from start to finish, everything went really smooth. In my opinion, it was a pleasure to work with.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think, Tony, about I'm going to take this on a side tangent for a second here, but about doing the same similar process, but with live instead of it being a full cured dry? Because I know we did that one R&D with the papaya where you did a fresh frozen sift, which was like a very cool, very good product. How do you do that with the live cart as well? Is that possible?
So we do a live jelly sauce.
Okay.
We actually have one coming out, the gilded strawberry. That's our next actual fire chat. And it's ridiculous. We actually did a blend. We did a 24K live rosin and a strawberry banana live rosin. And
I don't think it's a strawberry banana. I think it's a straight strawberry.
Oh yeah, you're right. It is straight strawberry. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know. When it all came, it all said strawberry.
Yeah, no, it is.
But isn't 24K though like OG and strawberry banana cross or something like that?
It's a Tangy by the Kosher.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one's very tangy strawberry, but that is alive and that's done from fresh frozen. And it's like I'm trying to get people to understand that because it's a lot of work, and we just try to keep. We have the carts are all the same price, and it's tough because it's not us, but it's the regulators that are pushing the taxes. When you buy a cart, just so you know, like over 55% is taxes and cost of doing business with distributors and city and taxes and state taxes. People don't realize that the cities are getting 15% on retail and 10% on businesses, and 27% goes to the state, and every time you hand it to somebody, it jacks it up. So there is a certain ceiling to this, and unfortunately the people growing, the people manufacturing have to squeeze on their end as hard as possible. And I wish there was we could present that in different price points, but the same amount of work kind of happens. So for us, the technology that we have in the extraction process, no matter if we did it from fresh, frozen, or dry, you end up with two different kind of oils. And we kind of explain that on our website. People are like, what the hell is jelly sauce? What jelly sauce is, and there is a full out breakdown of the extraction process. I used to not put these on here. And then since we got so complicated, we just said, you know what, it's about time. And honestly, if you make solventless hash rosin, you'll appreciate it. And so we do both of them. And certainly we could do that moving forward. I just feel like those need to be consumed very quickly. They're going to have a really live plant taste, and they're going to be lower in overall THC, but they're going to have a totally different taste. Like it's as if the plant's alive in your mouth. Whereas the dry method is going to be a more robust, rich, full, very potent, very effective type of oil. You know what I mean?
Do you think the potency is higher in the cured product versus the live product?
Seems to be.
I think that it's hard to say that one is more potent than the other. I would say that they're equally potent in different ways. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like even our sauce cart is just as potent as the jelly sauce cart. It just doesn't get you high the same.
Oh, the full spectrum straight rosin. Yeah.
It's just all about a different. So when it comes to the cured or the live resin for the jelly sauce, like your product, I feel like is definitely just as potent as any live product that we make. It's just a different feeling. The jelly sauce carts almost all kind of get me really high in my face. Like I noticed that
this thing gets me faded as hell. This cart is potent.
Like right through here. And I feel like when I smoke the live one, it's a little bit more up here. For me personally, but again, everyone interprets what they're smoking a little differently, I think. So it all just
my definition of that, this is how I look at it. The live versus the dry, it seems to me, for me personally, it's a little smoother on the throat, but the like you said, I feel it in my face, and for me it feels like it lasts a lot longer. So I guess I'm thinking, when I think of potency, I think of how long does this thing last, and do I feel it? How fast is the onset, and how long is the relief, right? And I feel like with the live, you get like, this is like a very direct type of response when we're talking about the THC response. But when we're talking about a lot of the live, you're getting a lot of nuances and compounds in there that create this very euphoric, more like what Pat's talking about, on the top of the head, and you get this different effect. You get a lot of, I get a lot of different, like, it's very,
it's a lot for me. It's a lot more like smoking, like one is like smoking a live rosin and one is like smoking full melt, like they're very much the same, but at the same time, like one's gonna have me more slumped and one's gonna have me more like, all right, let's go for a walk, let's do this. You know what I mean? Like they're different vibes.
Yeah, there's so many nuances to cannabis that even just before it even gets to the hash side, that like, even like, so let's just talk about the strawberry or the OZK or the blueberry. Like, all of those 3 strains are very sweet, delicate terps. They all are earlier harvests than on the harvest dates than like gassier strains like that pineapple or the black orchid or the Picasso. So like, I've always noticed as a grower, like when I took my plants down, even on a shorter strain versus a longer strain, the shorter strains are like, the high is more creative and less sleepy. And when you take a strain longer, it seems like it's more sedating and more of like that couch lock potency.
That's what I get from this blueberry, sedated and couch lock, but I'm getting these, like, this push of creativity too coming in.
Yeah, you need
but
that.
I'm definitely like
that both sides.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to run through this real quick. So what we did, so when we talk about jelly, people are asking online, and I'm going to break it down like this. And if you're really into it, it's right here on our website under jelly sauce. And we make a dry sift rosin. From that rosin, we separate that into 2 components. And I can try to pull up my, on the last episode, we did this. So we break it into rosin. Let's see if I can pull this up. Are you guys still seeing this giveaway sheet? Are you still?
I'm seeing a rosin cart right now, or a Blue River cart.
Let me do this real quick.
No, I see you.
All right, let me go into my secret files.
Almost any question that you have is answered on the website. If you check the website, there's so much information. Or if you dig through the Instagram, there's so much information available.
So here's like the secret lab right here. This is all what we showed last time. Basically, we're grabbing the resin heads, we're separating them, we're making a rosin. We are taking that rosin and we are repressing that rosin through a tighter filtration and separating the sauce and the THCA
directly from my smoking pleasure.
From it. So there's the 3. So we start with rosin, whether it's live rosin or dry. We separate the THCA, we separate the sauce, and then we mechanically refine this sauce further of plant fats and lipids. And when we do that, we get twice as many flavonoids, 2 times the flavonoids and 2 times the terpenes, and 3.5% less plant fats have been eliminated on average from live rosin, and up to 8% on rosins. And so that leaves us a very pure product. And then we take this THCA, and instead of decarboxylating the oil and doing all that, we simply decarboxylate that in another method, which creates a very high potency solventless THC. And then, so you're looking at that, we're able to then hit 91% fully active Delta 9 for those that were asking online. And so what we're able to do then is blend this back into the sauce. And so what we noticed was, this is a regular sauce that we cleaned up, that we hit 8.7%. And it was, this was a half gram cart. It's really low as overall. See that overall is 590. And so what we were trying to do is, how do we make a stronger refined rosin sauce cart and do that without any water. And that's how we did that. And so what ends up happening is the results, we can't change them. It's based on how you grew. And so the results were 9.6% terpenes and 82% after 82% overall. And so there's 76% fully active THC, which is extremely rare. 76% fully active, not converted, right? Because you could get, usually if you hit like in our snow, it's like much higher and then it gets converted down. But that is the activated in the cart. So that's blend. When I say blended, we're not blending distillate. We're literally isolating out THC from rosin in its purest form, and we're able to do that without affecting the terpenes. So there's no heat applied to the other segments. So they all come right back together. And so that's pretty unique. And for that, we basically started this other crazy concept where we're like, okay, we hope that people enjoyed the artistry behind that. You picking out 3 different varieties, us getting the opportunity to do that, and then craft it into this really high potent, really high terpene result. Some people are probably asking when we see the pesticides. So the thing about solventless, no pesticides, and the carts in this process are also NDs on heavy metals. So those are your state limits. Most carts have limits, and to get NDs on carts are extremely hard. That's because it's ABD, all glass, with ceramic cores. For those that are also very confused with this, and buyers that are getting them, if you're just getting the cart without the battery, it's going to be a problem, because we spent a year with Alex on this from ABD, creating a smart pulse battery, which runs as low as 1.8, but around 2 to 2.4. And instead of you pushing it on, it goes on and off, on and off, on and off. So it gently warms the core up without overheating. And so it's really important to have that. If you don't have this battery and you have a regular like stick battery, something like this is the next ABD, it's programmed already. You want to make sure that you just use the button for no more than like 2 or 3 seconds and lay off the button, and then go again for after 2 or 3 seconds. So you kind of feather it on and off as you hit it. It's really important because when you are dealing with a refined rosin sauce, like a jelly sauce, you're going to have higher terpenes, and you're going to have a thinner oil than something like distillate. And so it's going to have a lower boiling and vaporization point because it's thinner and it has more terpenes in it. And so if you hit it hot, it's an unpleasant experience, just like our flan. If you're hitting our flan on red on the Puffco Peak, it's going to be really bad experience. If you're cold starting, you're going to love it. If you got quartz and you're heating your nail up, let it go another 10 to 20 seconds before you hit it, and you will see a whole different world with flan. And it's the same thing with these carts. And so we came together. We only made 1,300 of these carts.
Yep, they're limited.
Very limited, very exclusive. We came together. Now you guys are giving away. People are probably wondering. There are like 20 something prizes, 26 prizes in the 1,300. You guys are giving away these Converse.
Those are hand painted by Eric Lujan.
Yep. So we decided to match it. We give away the custom Blue River Gordo V2 and the highly educated Gavel 3 with the diffusers, sapphire diffusers. This whole set is also in there. So you have the jogger set that we went online, and when we took it offline because we've been extremely busy and trying to get everything going back. But we decided the best way to spread our merch around is reward those that are buying. And so this is our golden ticket game where free batteries are in there. And of course, if you ever got a battery and it's a defect and you have any problems, you can call our customer service. We have extra batteries. The company will send them out to you we want to make sure that you have these batteries. So we did have a back thing, but you may get two different boxes. There are some boxes that look like this, and you're going to pull out the little scroll, and it's going to have a QR code, and you're going to register online. It's a back end, and some boxes look like this. Those are the new boxes. And so it was like something that we wanted to release with this. So this is you're our first cart in the new box. So it's pretty cool.
That's dope. Yeah, I would love it. The cart came out great. The packaging came out great. It's exactly what I would want to do with another brand. You don't see us doing a lot of collaborations with other brands because people don't have the same mindset for quality and execution. So, thank you for doing a good job for us, man. It's a pleasure to do this collaboration. It's good to work with good people. It's nice.
I appreciate that, man. And I guess
and making great starting product. You have no idea the nightmare that Tony and I have gone through to find material that works for the process that we do.
Yeah, you guys,
good.
You guys love hash. I can tell. You guys love that. I love hash too. But like to go through what you guys have to go through with that's like, it reminds me of when I invented my first, I invented this flower vaporizer with a friend of mine in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and going to try and sell to every head shop owner. And every head shop owner was just like these crazy people, that they're always like the worst businessmen. And that's kind of like how every grower is too. It's like these crazy people, they're the worst businessmen. And it's not easy to find people that are on the same level, like mentally at all, or even connected to reality when it comes to growers most of the time.
It's true, man. I'm really happy. I guess Pat kind of spilled some of the news, so I guess we could probably tell some people that are interested.
I didn't do anything.
Yeah, you slipped up. It's okay. I wanted to tell people anyway. So if you didn't catch the last fire chat, Blue River is a company that I started that is really a technology company. We develop different types of advanced mechanical separation technologies in which have trademarked signature branded products that I lease out to different strategic partners. Like that's why rosin and THCA, and I can tell you the carts are coming very soon to Florida. They did approve, the state did approve them, and I can't tell you when, but it's coming soon.
I leaked that information? What?
No, the other information was that I also own a manufacturing license that's at DESA, and that's where the confusion was, and people were asking about that. And so, we started to make new products. Awesome. And we started to, we manufacture those, but it's two different things. And ultimately there are two mechanisms of how those two companies work. And now we have, went from the Bay Area, and we have moved a flagship to Los Angeles. So Blue River has made some big moves, and manufacturing collaborations and things have made some big moves into LA. And so that's why we're in the LA area now, working with some of the best, like Wonderbrett, and you'll see some cookies collabs coming out and people in the LA area. So I think your thing's on mute.
It's about cookies collabs. You're right.
Well, no, I was just going to say that you said, oh, I moved in the LA area. So
it's hot today, boy. By the way, it's 96 degrees today. It is so hot.
96.
90. French Bulldog is an idiot. She's just outside chilling, like trying to keel over from heat exhaustion or something. She wouldn't come in. I had to go get her earlier. That's where I went.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm actually not that far from where Pat is, and even he's on that hillside. I'm more in the flats. It's 100 over where I'm at, so it's even cooler where he's at, and it's only like a few miles away.
I'm living that AC lifestyle right now. It's beautiful. Get out of here, Fly. Get out of here.
Dude, Pat,
Well, I'm excited about it.
my AC,
You know,
my AC just died, and I have to get it replaced. And like, they can't come for like 10 days. So it's like we're heat waving it in this no AC house right now. It's crazy.
I'm sorry. If you need to come over and get some AC, holler at the
I got the AC in the car right now. I mean, I'm all right. You know, once the
You're
sun goes down, it's all good.
I got
I'm
trapped.
just sitting in my driveway. This is my office.
This pre-pandemic, I got trapped on the East Coast, so I have not been able to fly back, and it's not that hot. But yeah, I can't.
Give it a week, it'll be over there. 5 days, it'll be super hot.
It'll be
over
nice
there.
here again, and it'll be super hot on the East Coast.
Yeah, I'm coming back through.
Yeah,
I get to come
a week later.
I'm poking back through though. I can't wait to get back through again. It's just like longer delay. I used to be on a plane like every 3 days. Now it's like very strategic and like in and out and not very much.
Are you gonna drive or are you gonna fly?
No, I want to fly. I got a plane ticket to come see you guys.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate
I'm interested to see. Yeah, definitely. I'm interested to do some more stuff and see some other flavors and carts in the future. And see how how everybody likes them, and then just keep rolling and keep doing it as long as everybody likes it. So
yeah, I think it's pretty good personally.
We already got people on the IG asking if we're doing a flan, bro. We got to do one.
Yeah, there was people already asking about it.
I guess we have to do a flan.
Yeah. It'll be a very special, but you know, it took us a while to convince you to give us your flowers to work with. So I appreciate that. And thank you for giving us your trust. And I look forward to future collaborations. I'll probably drop that video. I got to finish up that video I was working on. I'm going to put some other things into it. And I'm actually playing around with your logo and Be Real's logo in 3D. So doing some crazy 3D stuff with it, see what I could do.
Dope. We gotta do a Nosy K card, I guess, too, maybe, huh? That'd be cool.
I'm super about that. I love the Skittles, so anything that has that Skittles in it, I'm down to do.
Yeah.
We're giving Robert the review. He's gonna have a review video on this Blueberry OZK. So if you guys are following us on Instagram or on our YouTube, on playlists, we have product reviews. And so we let this guy, you know, we don't say anything to him ever. I never like try to influence him. I was like, hey, just try this. And then he's like, oh, and he comes up with his own sommelier, you know, descriptions and stuff. So
that's dope, man.
I like the guy, but I don't talk to him because I don't want him to ask me no questions about the stuff.
I want to say this is officially the shortest I've ever been able to do this in. I was trying to do it exactly in 1 hour, and we went from 7:20 to 8:20. We're going to keep them like this 1 hour, just for those that are watching. Everybody was like, if you could just keep them to
They'll
an
never
hour.
be an hour. It's impossible.
No, we're gonna get better at this. I promise.
We will get better at it, but they'll probably always be like an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I was appreciate you guys coming on. Hopefully that was very informative for those that are watching out there. And I'll see you guys soon down there.
Yeah, stay safe. Hey, guys.
Thanks for coming on, Brett. Thanks, Tony. Have a good one, y'all. Everyone be safe. Stay healthy.